Bromley Radio, bringing Bromley together as we bring you the latest news regarding the Tooting Five, the protesters that were arrested and charged and appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court. Here's the latest news.
Hi, it's Gemma. I'm outside Westminster Magistrates Court at the moment, where the Tooting Five, who you've probably heard about, have been in court today. I'm with Simon Forthrop, who I'm sure you all know as Bromley councillor. He's been in there with them, and he's just going to explain to you what has gone on today, basically.
They've been in court today for what is called a plea and directions hearing. So, and they were asked whether they how they plead to the offence, and they pleaded not guilty, because although they were there peacefully protesting in Tooting, they were not there to harass Sadiq Khan, and there is no evidence whatsoever for that. The great news is that Kevin has already been no evidence offered and has been let off because he was not obstructing the police. So that's good news. So it's down to 4 now. Originally there were 5, now there's 4. And there'll now be a court hearing on the 27th of November. At that hearing, they will be make sure they have to provide all the evidence in advance. So they have to provide what is called disclosure. And then they have to provide not only disclosure, but they have to give a list of witnesses and all the rest of it. One of the interesting things is that they haven't decided, the prosecution yet, whether to call Sadiq Khan or not. And that'd be interesting because he's a very reliable witness, isn't he? But what's the other thing that was said is, and we know about this, is that when they were all arrested and taken to Charing Cross Police Station, none of them were interviewed. And today the prosecution claimed that they were all interviewed under caution and gave no reply. That is purely false. It is absolutely false, and that will come out in the disclosure because it never, ever happened. And there's no recording of it, no evidence of that whatsoever. So already the prosecution case is falling apart. What should happen is the prosecution, the CPS, should now actually throw the case out and say we're not following it because it's not in the public interest to do so. And congratulations to the 4 remaining for standing up to their rights. They're actually pleading not guilty, as I said, on the round of harassment, and also on the grounds that it breached their human right to be able to peacefully protest and their right to free speech. So hopefully all good and all will come to light on the 27th of November.
Thanks, Simon. And yeah, 27th of November, so they've still got another couple of months of this hanging over their heads. As friends to the Tooting Five, what now is 4, I know that this is causing them an immense amount of stress and grief, illness even. So, it's really unfair. But what can we say? Another trial to go. So please do keep up your support for the Tooting 4. And yeah, do look it up on
5, one of who's 100% innocent already.
Yeah, and hopefully the other 4 will be too. So, no, thank you, and we will, of course, keep you updated. Thank you very much.
And over here on the phone, Simon Forthrop. He was actually there inside court at Westminster Magistrates Court there. Simon, just tell us about the experience there in the court.
Well, it's quite an interesting experience because there was very limited room within the courtroom itself. So obviously priority was given to basically all the people that were accused and all their families as a priority. And I was very fortunate that they allowed me in as well. So, and obviously I was grateful for that. Essentially a courtroom setting is very formal. It's what, in this particular occasion, it's what they call a plea and directions hearing. So effectively it was to have a look at the cases and see whether there was going to be a plea or anything like that, or whether how people were going to plead. And before that all happened, because there's 5 people in total, one of the people, all the charges against them were dropped. So basically they are now free and don't have it hanging over the head. So that's one person dealt with out of the 5. So 20% of job done, as you say.
Yes. So it's now the Tooting 4.
Yeah, well, it's still the Tooting 5 because we've had 1 victory so far, yeah. And that's quite interesting. But clearly, there's all sorts of comparisons of things that will be made place. The 4 remaining pleaded not guilty after they were charged, and basically the issues were basically whether or not they were there to harass Sadiq Khan or not. And obviously they will always argue from their point of view that they certainly weren't, and they would also argue that they were just using their sort of human right to free speech effectively.
Indeed.
And it's exactly the same thing that, funny enough, Greta Thunberg got let off on at exactly the same court, at Westminster Magistrates Court, and where they said, well, because you were there doing your free speech, the police have to be basically proportionate and reasonable in their responses to everything they do. They've got to give clear instructions and clear directions and all the rest of it. And so we'll see what happens. There's a new date now on the 27th of November for them to go back to court and to listen to what's going on. But it's great because there's a lot of people there to support them and to give them their moral support, and actually the court were a bit shocked because they've never had that many people turn up in support of somebody before. If you know what I mean. So from the perspective of those who were up in court accused of these things, it was quite interesting. And the judge also noted, because a couple of them really couldn't hear at all what was going on, and I'm not saying that is necessarily an excuse, but the judge certainly picked up on the fact that could well be an issue in terms of clear communication, and that's going back to what we talked about in terms of Greta Thunberg. And so basically two issues. First of all, were they there to harass Khan? And the second issue was, were they just engaging in their human right to protest? And those are the issues that will be dealt with at trial in the 27th of November. Of course, the final element was that, of course, whether or not Sadiq Khan himself will be a witness in this.
Yes, because he's actually named, isn't he, Simon? He's actually named on the summons, shall we say, on it.
Well, he's named some of the evidence that they've got there, but also the charge is very sort of convoluted. It says not only were you there to harass someone, but you were there to prevent them doing something that they are entitled to do. And we're not sure exactly what they mean by that. So what is it, again, that he was entitled to do that they were preventing? So
even though he wasn't there, he wasn't even there, I believe.
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't even there at the time. And of course the people who went there to protest, and let's just put this clear,
yes, sir,
because I'm one of those people. I don't sort of condone this, doing things outside politicians' houses, because as you can imagine, every politician and their family is entitled to peaceful enjoyment of their life. But this was a little way away from where he lived, at the end of his road, doing a protest. So I think so not disturbing him directly, and that evidence will no doubt come out in due course.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see what's happened, because already there are interesting aspects of it which were contested. The prosecution had said that they were all interviewed under caution and gave a no-comment interview. Well, all four of the remaining accused weren't interviewed, and that's their evidence that they weren't interviewed, they weren't cautioned, and I would believe that, because there won't be any recordings of that. And so the judge said, well, the police have to produce those recordings and produce the evidence that happened, because clearly that is part and parcel of all of this whole thing. In reality, hopefully the Crown Prosecution Service will now review it, because I don't think it's in their interest to pursue this. It's a waste of sort of public and taxpayers' time and money, and hopefully it will all be dropped, and then people can get on with their lives. Yeah. So there's a little bit of time for them to do these things and move on. So hopefully that gives an explanation of where we are.
Well, thank you for that, Simon. And in the meantime, on a human side of things, this thing is still hanging over them, isn't it?
Well, it is, and the thing is, they didn't, from their perspective, and I'm trying to sort of play it evenly because of obviously court situation going on. From their perspective, they didn't go along to harass or anything. No. They went along to protest.
Exactly.
And they did all the usual stuff that they do. They go and set up and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And the evidence will come out, and there's plenty of video evidence that they were, at some stage the police did ask people to leave, but of course that wasn't communicated very well. And one of the people who was involved in that said, look, we've been asked to leave, so we're going to leave. And people were leaving. And the bizarre thing is that, and this will all come out in evidence in due course, that the local police were actually helping them pack up, because as you can imagine, when they set up to do these things, it takes a while to set everything up, and nobody said to them in the first place, oh, by the way, you can't do this here. So as I said, I think ultimately, and these are law-abiding citizens of good character, so that means they've got no criminal convictions or anything like that. So they're not people who are there doing, and all of them, if you look at the ages of them, they're all of a certain age.
So what would you say the average age was?
I'm not going to get into that. I don't think that's fair on people.
I would say it would certainly be above 50, certainly, I'm being kind.
Let's not get into that, Nick. Let's not get into that. But I think, and so, a bit of common sense has to apply here. And as I said, I think this is overblown, and it was probably, a bit of overzealousness on behalf of the police and such like. You've been to some of these demos, I've been to them, and usually the police come along and have a chat, and they explain exactly what's going on and what's happening, and they're there for a limited period. They turn up, they protest, they go, they even clean up after themselves. And so when that happens, it's it's fairly obvious these are not your sort of people who are thugs, like again we're seeing at the moment. Thugs in our streets, which is deplorable, where people are vandalising and all the rest of it, and this is completely different. So and people shouldn't confuse it with that type of behaviour, because it's not.
No.
And these aren't people that go in the roads and block the roads or stop ambulances or emergency vehicles. These are people that are there protesting, and at the end of the day they just go and pack up. So this has all got to, as I said, part of this, because I'm not a witness or anything, but that all that evidence will come out in due course. I would expect that to come out, the CCTV footage, particularly of one of the people that was accused, who was, literally, and this, a lot of them were wearing dinosaur costumes and things like this, and they weren't, they're not your aggressive types, and such like, and they were actually literally changing out of their dinosaur costume.
One was on the ground, wasn't she? And I think, one of them was on the ground, literally changing it. Sorry to interrupt there, Simon. One of them was getting changed, getting out of her when she was arrested. And you're told to leave. Logically, you're going to take off the costume that you're in, so that you can go and grab. So you can see, when this evidence comes out, and I'm sure it will. As I said, if the Crown Prosecution Service are sensible, they will hopefully drop it before it even gets that far. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, and follow. And I'm obviously following it closely. Yes, indeed, and well done, Councillor, for attending down there as well. Thank you so much for putting some meat on the bones, as we say here, with your insight there, shall we say, there at the Magistrates. So thank you so much again, Councillor Simon Thorthrop.
That's a pleasure, Mick, and I hope you have a good day, and I hope your listeners have a good day too.
Thank you very much, and you as well, sir.
Bromley Radio.